I like to walk around and move around, so I hope you don't mind. But thank you so much for having me here. It means so much to me. This is my passion. And to see all you out there is just heartwarming, and I love to see you here this morning to share this passion with me. I just want to share a little bit about where I've come from and take you on a little journey this morning. My first recollection of just feeling like I was unsafe, insecure, was when I was about 3 years old. I was wandering around my mobile home as a little toddler, 3 years old, just wandering around. It was very quiet and lonely, dark. You see, my mom had gone to work that morning. And my dad was supposed to be taking care of us, but he had left us home alone. The silence in my mobile home was broken by my little baby brother in his crib in the other room, screaming and crying for an adult to come take care of him. Being 3 years old, I wanted to take care of him, but I didn't have the means to. But there was no one home to take care of him, and we were left to fend for ourselves. So fast forward about two more years, and my father had left. And my mom was on a mission to find herself another husband and a father figure for us. The only problem with that is that these men that my mom would bring in the home would be that they were abusive and they were mean, because that's what she was used to, that's what she grew up with. So that's what she drew into our home. They were physically, sexually, and verbally abusive to me and my siblings. So just to give you a little bit of an idea of what I mean by abuse, just a little bit of a glimpse into the things that we had to deal with. It was one of the first most traumatic memories I remember. We were home, and the man that was taking care of us at the time, my little brother was about 3. I was about 5 years old, and my brother was toddling around, and he walks over to the stand, and he picks up a lighter because he's curious. He just wants to know what it was. So as he picked up the lighter, and he just started playing with it, this man walked over to my brother, picked up the lighter to teach him a lesson to not play with a lighter. He started to burn my little brother's pudgy toddler hands over and over and over and over again. My little brother was screaming and crying. I was screaming and crying. He was in pain, he was scared, I was scared. And I was screaming at this man, "Stop, stop, stop!" And he wouldn't stop. He just kept burning his hands over and over and over again. I felt powerless, just like many times when I would see my siblings getting abused. I felt powerless, and I felt like I couldn't do anything about it. So I grew a little bit, and my mom would take us to want to be home alone on a Sunday morning. So she would ship us off to church on a church school bus. And that was the best thing that ever could have happened to me, because I went to church and I found stability there. I felt safe for the first time. I felt secure. I saw people that were loving their children. I saw people that were kind and stable, and I was like, that is what I want to be like when I get older. I don't want to be like what I'm being raised in. I want that stability for myself and for my kids. Even at like 9 years old, I'm like, that's what I want. I remember sitting in Sunday school, and I would be singing, "Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so." And I remember those words carrying me through my childhood, because I knew that if I didn't feel like people loved me, I knew that I had a God that loved me. So those words of that song carried me through my tough times growing up. When I was a teenager, things got pretty rough. They were, I think, the roughest out of any of the years, because I know as a teenager, teenagers tend to be a little awkward and I felt awkward. I felt like I didn't fit in anywhere. Because when you grow up in a home full of abuse and trauma, you lose the ability to relate to people. You lose the ability to socialize. You lose that ability to be a normal person. I felt like I wasn't normal, and I just had a really hard time. The abuse in our home hit its peak when I was about a junior in high school. I was a straight A student on honor roll, even through the tough times, but when I hit my 11th grade year, my grades just plummeted that year because I just couldn't handle it anymore. I was helpless and I felt suicidal and I just couldn't cope. So as I grew and I was able to leave my home, and I was thinking, oh, this is my opportunity to be free from the drama, free from the abuse, free from all that's been going on. I never got taken away from my family. Back then, it was a while ago, I don't want to tell you, reveal my age or anything like that, but it was a while ago, and back then you had to have significant proof that you were being abused, and it was my mom and her boyfriends really hit it well. Even though we had proof, it wasn't enough proof. So, but anyway, I endured it, and I left the home, and I was like, this is my opportunity to be free. I left my home, but I realized it wasn't me being free. I still carried that baggage with me. I still was hurting inside. I still was depressed. I was still angry. I was still having those issues that I was dealing with back at home, because when you have trauma, when you are traumatized as a child, it does something to your brain. It does something to the inside of you. So I clung to my faith some more, and I tried to pray my way through and tried to get better, because I didn't like how I was feeling, and I just tried to be normal. And I thought one of the ways that I could gain some normalcy in my life was to get married. I got married really young, and I got married and started having babies, and I'm like, this is my opportunity to be the parent that I saw in church. All those people that I saw in church and that I wanted to be like, I can do this. I can break these patterns of abuse, and I can be a great mom, and that will be fulfillment for me. Well, I had my first and second baby, and I was thinking, I am disgusted with myself. I'm seeing myself be angry. I'm seeing myself still being depressed. Marriage didn't fix that. And I saw myself, I didn't abuse my children, but I still wasn't where I wanted to be. I wasn't being that parent that I wanted to be. And I saw where I just wasn't being nurturing. I didn't know how to nurture because I didn't learn how to nurture. I was not nurtured at all. And so I didn't know how to do that. I didn't have that example. And so I started praying. That's the only thing I knew how to do, was to pray my way through things. And I asked God to help me. And so he sent resources and people in my life, and I started to break free from those patterns of abuse and dysfunction. I started to be that parent that I wanted to be. And I wrote a book called Parenting Beyond Your Brain, like Dee Dee said. And it talks about that. First, I want to talk about statistics. I hate that word, statistics. I never say it right. Statistics show that if children grew up in an abusive home, that they are 3 times more likely to repeat that pattern in adulthood. 74% more likely to commit violent crime. 6 times more likely to commit suicide, and 50% more likely to do drugs and alcohol. Now, these statistics really come close to home. They hit really close to home, because as I grabbed onto my faith, my siblings grabbed onto drugs and alcohol. And it was devastating to me, because I knew that they could grab onto their faith, because they went to church with me, but they didn't. The the pain was too hard, too rough, and drugs and alcohol was a quick fix for them. So I have an older sister who was 8 years older than me, an older brother who was 9 years older than me, and a little brother that was 2 years older than, or 2 years younger than me. So my older brother moved down to Florida as soon as he could. As soon as he could get out of the home, he moved, and we were up in New York, and we were quite far away. He was kind of like my father figure because he was so much older than me. He used to call me baby girl, and I loved that because it was my only nickname that I had, and we had a special bond. But when I was in high school, my brother had been in and out of jail in drug use, and I wanted to help him so bad, but I couldn't, and I was only like 16. But he came out of a bar one night. He had been drinking and drugging all day long. He was trying to numb the pain, all the stuff that he was going through at the time. Came out of the bar and was coming across the road, and he was stumbling, and he was really drunk. He stopped in the middle of the road, and all of a sudden, car hit him. He went flying through the air, hit his head on the pavement, and suffered massive brain injury. He was air-flighted to the hospital, where he stayed for 4 months in a coma, and he died. And it's just devastating because I knew it was inadvertently because of drugs and alcohol, and saw how he was suffering because of that. And I watched my younger brother, he's in and out of jail for the same reasons, drugs and alcohol. And my sister, she has never really gone to jail, but she lives in ruins. She drinks and drugs all day long. That's how she copes. And she's 8 years older than I am. So I've been wondering, when are you going to grow up? When are you going to find something else to... But it's not, that's all she knows. That's all she knows how to remedy those pains that she has. Children have 10 essential needs when they're growing up. This is something that I learned as a parent, and those 10 essential needs are acceptance, affection, attention, affirmation, security, comfort, encouragement, support, appreciation, and respect. Now, to the degree that these children, our children, don't get these things, these 10 things that they need, are to the degree that it damages them. And as they grow and they're damaged from not getting these needs, or if they're not feeling safe and they're being abused, even if they're not abused, even if they're getting neglected in these areas, they grow up with deficits and they start to act in ways that aren't functional, and it perpetuates over and over and over again. They grow up to be adults, they grow up to be parents, and they aren't able to be a parent themselves because they didn't get what they needed, and it just keeps going on and on and on. Like I was saying earlier, and Dee Dee said, I wrote a book called Parenting Beyond Your Brain. After a couple years ago, I realized that for many years, I didn't talk about what I went through because it was embarrassing. I was ashamed. And I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. I didn't want people to know that I went through this because I felt awkward enough. I was trying to fit in, and I didn't want to have one more thing that just made me be awkward and stand out. But a couple of years ago, it came to me. I had to speak at church, and they were talking about testimonies, and I knew that my testimony needed to come out. I needed to start talking about it because that was how I was going to help other people. So I wrote a book, and it's a book of how I overcame the abuse and the trauma, and how I became the parent and break those patterns in my life, and I teach others how to do the same thing. So it took me a while to do it myself, and I figured in writing my book, it would help other people get there quicker. So it was my way of being able to take that powerless that I felt as a young child. Every time I would tell the people to stop abusing my siblings, I felt powerless. And this was my way to gaining power again as an adult, turning it into helping people and helping them gain power over their past. As Mrs. South Carolina International 2018, my platform is rebuilding families. And that's exactly what I do. I go out and I teach people a 5-step approach that I used to overcome these patterns in my life to gain power, P-O-W-E-R, which stands for pinpoint your problem, overcome versus staying victim mentality, win with forgiveness, encourage different ways of thinking, and then R is rehabilitate your actions. It helps people that have gone through trauma, abuse, and adversity to get out of being stuck, to get up and be able to move on successfully and be an overcomer. So, there are many ways that we can prevent child abuse. Prevent Child Abuse America, I love these organizations because Prevent Child Abuse America and Healthy Families America, they are what I'm passionate about because Prevent Child Abuse America has a program where they have mentors that come alongside of the kids and the parents. And that is so important to have that mentorship to help the parents and the kids become stronger, be able to get to where they need to go. Because if they see somebody else that cares and to help them, that makes all the difference in the world. Healthy Families America, they have more of a classroom setting where if you've lost your children into the system, then you can have a classroom setting and they teach you tools and ways to build healthy family or healthy adult parent-child relationships and give them tools to be able to do that. Some of the most obvious ways to prevent child abuse is removing the child from the home if you see abuse, and to know the warning signs of the abuse and to recognize them, teachers and friends and family, just knowing what those signs are. Training, as a foster parent, I recognized a great way to be able to instill in these children, the same way I went to church and I had that example, these foster children need that example when they go into foster homes. Knowing that there's a different way to live. Knowing that they do not have to stay in the same pattern that their parents are in and what they've experienced. So being a foster parent, training these foster parents to be able to equip these children to know that there's a different way and how to do it. The foster young adults that are aging out of foster care, it's so important that they learn, especially at this age, how to live a functional life, because these teenagers, or these young adults that are coming out of foster care probably felt a lot like I did. They probably feel lonely. They don't know how to deal. They don't know how to function properly. They don't know how to be a normal person. And they don't know how to parent, because soon enough they're going to be parents. And we need mentors to come alongside of those foster children that are coming out of foster care. A lot of them age out of foster care and don't even get placement and get families to be able to glean from because they're older and many people don't want to deal with older children and all their needs. So the last one I'm going to talk about is community. Community, to me, is the most important way to be able to prevent child abuse. Because when you have community surrounding these struggling parents, these struggling children, they no longer feel hopeless, believe me, I know. I want to give you a story of when I was a teenager, and somebody that mentored me, that came alongside of me, that made all the difference in the world, completely changed my life, turned it right side up. It was my youth pastor. I was wandering around church, being very antisocial, like always, because I didn't know how to socialize, and he recognized that I was having a hard time. So one Sunday, he said to me, well, why didn't you come to youth group? I'm like, okay, well, I guess I can, no harm in that. So I went to youth group, and he would have to take me to and from youth group because I didn't have a way. My mom wouldn't take me. And during those trips to and from youth group, I gained a father figure. He would give me talks that my father would normally give me if I had a father that knew how to give those fatherly talks. But I found it in him. And one of the most important talks that he gave me was, he said, you know, you're going to start dating soon. And I want you to know that if you pick boys and young men that are like what you've grown up in, which is usually what people do, they pick what they've been used to and they perpetuate the problem over and over again. He said, you can do this one thing and it will help you get through that. He said, write a list. Before you get involved with anybody, write a list. One side, put what you do want in a husband, and the other side, what you don't want in a husband. And before you get into a relationship, you need to evaluate those things that you do and you don't want. If that young man does not have those things that you want in a husband, or if he has those things that you don't want in a husband, you need to make wise choices accordingly and be able to pick that husband that you want for your future. Now, that changed everything to me, like I said, because I did that. I took that advice, and when I was dating and when I was ready to find my husband, I evaluated, and I found my husband, and he is a wonderful man. He is the father of my 7 children, and he's a great dad. And that was the key foundational factor in breaking these patterns of dysfunction and abuse, because now I have a partner that is functional and not abusive, and we do this together. Like I said, and like Dee said, I have 7 children, 4 girls and 3 boys. My 4 girls are adults. I have 2 that are married, 1 that just got engaged, and 1 is waiting to get engaged. But my girls that are married, my oldest girl has 2 babies. I have 2 grandbabies, believe it or not. I watch her be a mom, and I watch her do an amazing job as a mom. And I think to myself, every time I see her interact with those children, I think to myself, wow, she's able to do that because we taught her. We were able to break those patterns of abuse and dysfunction. My daughter is an amazing mom because of all that struggle that I went through. And it was so worth it. And I love seeing my children thrive and be able to break those patterns. I have 3 boys, one of which is right here. This is my oldest boy, and he is 15, and I have 2 younger boys that are 12, almost 13. Can't believe he's gonna be a teenager. And my younger boy that is 9. So, and I have a foster baby, but we're not gonna have him very much longer because he is going back. So we've had him for a year. It's been a joy to see him grow up. I got him at 2 weeks old, and we've had him for his whole first year. We just celebrated his first birthday. He loved it, got cake all in his hair, everything. So getting back to community, getting back to preventing child abuse, community is so important, and we need so desperately, we need people that's going to raise up and be able to mentor, be able to come alongside. You don't have to have an official title. You can be a coach, you can be a teacher, you can be a political leader, you can be a friend of the family, you can be a pastor. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are in life, you can be a mentor. And that's what's so desperately needed. And these parents that are struggling, if you see a parent that is struggling, just go beside them, gird them up, and mentor them, and show them the right way. Show them how to live a functional, healthy life. And it just, for me, it made a world of difference. That's what broke the patterns in my life, is to have mentors, to have people that I watched, parent. I had friends. That's part of what the resources was that came into my life, was friends that grew up in a functional home. And I watched them parent, and I learned how to parent. So some of you that are parents, and you see your friend or somebody at church or somebody, in your parenting groups that are struggling with how to raise their children, a gentle word and just being their friend and teaching them, just being there for them is a great way. So I encourage you to be the community that supports these weaker links in our community to make a stronger society. Together, we can make a stronger society. Together, we can reduce child abuse. Together, we can make a difference. I thank you for listening.